Good morning, namaste, shalom. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's conversation with Mr. Subir Adicary, author of A Few Torn Pages from India's Freedom Struggle, a book published by Vitasta. Mr. Adicary is an engineer by training, alumni of the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology at Roorkee in civil engineering. He is also a cartoonist and a theater personality. As you know, engineering, cartoonist, and theater personality is not a very common combination. He's also a business person, by the way, and we can talk more about that too. This book, the one we'll be discussing today, discusses historically underappreciated individuals and their contributions to India's freedom struggle. Subirji, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today.
I'm humbled to be with you, and thank you for calling me for this session. Good morning, good day, and namaskar to all the listeners, and Vivekji too. Vikasji had been kind enough to agree to this meeting because this book needs to be radiated all over, permeated all over. And I am not the kind of man to alone share the responsibilities. Every Indian has got it's the duty of every Indian to spread this book, the content on this book.
Thank you, Subirji. You're very kind. And before I ask my first question, let me remind the audience that they are welcome to ask questions at any time. They can raise their hand in Zoom or type their question in the chat box, and we will welcome questions from them. So let me start with the first question. What is the 30 to 40-second elevator pitch of your book? What would you tell someone who's never read the book?
So during last 75 years or so of Indian freedom, we have been fed with a few names, and we all feel that they are the people who brought about the revolution, but the freedom. But that's not the only factor that got us the freedom. The many other factors were there which brought us the freedom. The totality of the movements ended up into India getting freedom. And now armed revolution is one of the facets that we have always had a sustained armed revolution in India, which has not been highlighted much except for few individuals like Sardar Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad and accomplices, and Kakori. There are many people with sustained armed revolution actions. We are brave hearts who sacrifice their lives, but somehow they have been consigned to the dustbin of obfuscation for inexplicable reasons. Till now, I am 74, I have not been able to figure out why were they left out. And for the Indian who loves their country, for Indian who says, I am an Indian, I must know how the freedom came in, this is a book which brings out certain, not all, I've tried only a few, that should be brought into the notice of all Indians, particularly the younger generation, that their contribution was not less than the Charka Vahini or the names that he always utilized. These names are also to be incorporated in the Indian history of freedom struggle. And it's my humble attempt to bring out few of them. And I have chosen Bengal because Bengal is the hub of revolution from 1900 to 1935. And Punjab was also there. But Punjab and Bengal and United Provinces, they did, in a conjunction. But if you go across Vindhya, it was not that highlighted. So, and I did not have access of the reports about the across Vindhya and other areas. I had reports and background of Bengal, United the provinces and undivided Bengal, like the East Pakistan, now it is called Bangladesh. So I delved on that and I brought out this. So Indians must read. And those who have not heard this book will hear sometime, because it takes time to percolate. It has just been released. So it will slowly get into the minds of Indian by word of mouth. Because I am not a great businessman selling my books and putting them on the bookstore by paying. The word of mouth, like people like you who are spreading this, will get my book around.
So Subirji, we'll come to Bengal in a few minutes, but let me make let me ask you one thing. There's many people who are now saying that only a few people got the limelight for India's freedom struggle. Let's pull them down, forget about them, and let's concentrate on the other people. But what I hear you saying is, let's also keep them in mind, but also add to our knowledge by including other people, not replace the ones who have gotten attention, but add to them. Is that correct?
I would always get to that idea that the people who have really done something and got the place should be retained. There's no point denigrating them in any way because history repeats itself. Today you are resenting them, son, tomorrow you will face the same thing. Why do this? Why don't you augment it? You must augment them, bring out the names, put them in the right place, accord them the same ideologies and same pedestal that you already given to some people. I will tell you one name, Vanchinathan from South India. He killed a magistrate and he was hanged. And there's a station named after him. No one knows about him. Why don't you pull him out and do it? But right now, people are doing it because of certain factors, vote bank politics. Like in Goa, they are bringing out the martyrs of Goa revolution. Why not all these days? Why all of a sudden this freedom, love for freedom fighters who are not, unsung freedom fighters come up? See, I have not written because of this Mahotsav, Azadi Mahotsav. My journey starts for them quite long back, about a decade back. I'll come to that when the progress.
Yeah, so let me ask you my next question.
Yes.
What are, people will read this book and I hope more and more people read, but what are 3 to 4 things, the most important 3 to 4 things that you want each reader to get from the book?
As I told you, that they must know that there are various factors in getting freedom. And this is one of the factors which really rattled the British Empire for about maybe 4 decades, and a sustained armed revolution with a slight gap in between. It was always rattling. Britain, the capital of Britain was Kolkata, and the hub of revolution was in Kolkata. There was the epicenter of the earthquake was in Kolkata, and the Richter scale was lower in Punjab and other places. But there were tremors too, like Gadar Party from Punjab. But they were in conjunction with the Bengal. So that's the reason people should read and know how do you juxtapose those revolutionaries into this. See, I'll tell you a small story out of the context. An old tiger was in the your jungle, and there was a man with a bow and arrow. He hit with arrow. One guy was having a gun. He put in a bullet, and someone killed with a spear, and the tiger died. So everyone claimed that I have killed the tiger. On autopsy, it was found that the tiger died of heart attack. So Indian freedom is like that. Everyone claims that we have brought the freedom. So unless you know all the facets, you can't just justify the sacrifice that the people have put in. So this book must be read by everyone. It's a part of the history. It's not a total history. As I told you, history is in all fractions. His story, all the stories are to be combined into one Lego, all the pieces have to be brought in, and then a perfect picture will come, and everyone will get their due respect and due place in history.
So let us talk about some of the stories in the book. So one story you write in the beginning itself is about Durga Devi. You say you met her when you were a child. Now, most people in our audience, even those who will watch it on YouTube in the years to come, they will not know who she is. So can you tell us who she was? What was her contribution? Where did you meet her?
In 1955, I was a 5-year-old kid when my father took me to a school in Lucknow named Lucknow Montessori School. I met a frail-looking lady in khadi, coarse white khadi sari with a green border, sitting in a small room, a bamboo hut sort of thing, in a big bungalow. And she called me over. I sat on her lap. She gave me a chocolate, asked a few questions, and then my father, the doctor in railways, said, "Doctor, you're most welcome." And she said something in Bengali also to my father. I don't remember what she said. My brother also got admitted. I studied in the school for 8 long years, and we used to call her Durga Bhabi. I was in the school choir in the morning prayer, and she used to stand just near me. She loved me, and I used to hug her because I was a small child. I never knew that I was sitting on the lap of a fair lady who was known as Agni by British police. Now, I'll tell the background of Durga. Durga Devi Vora, she was born in a Gujarati family in Prayagraj. At the very young age, she got married to Vora from Kolkata, whose father was Rai Bahadur. But the son was not Rai Bahadur, he was against these Bahadurs. So he went to Lahore with the young wife. There he joined Hindustan Socialist Republic Army, where your Bhagat Singh ji and Chandragaya ji, they were all in the members, and he became a very senior member. So while going to Calcutta
I'll
one day,
interrupt you here. I'll interrupt
Yes.
you briefly here.
Yes.
For
Yes.
those in our audience who want to learn more about Bhagat Singh and the Hindustan Socialist Republic Party, of course, there's many books you can read, but there are also movies by Manoj Kumar and
Yes.
Ajay Devgan that
Yes.
you can watch and learn about that aspect of Indian history. So please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
So Durga Bhabi, when Mr. Bora went to Calcutta once, he gave a bunch of rupees, 5,000 or so, to sustain the family. Still, he was not there. Saunders was murdered in 1928. Police was looking for Bhagat Singh ji. One night, Durga ji used to stay in a lane with a small child, and a night a knock was there, typical and familiar knock, 2.5 times, knock, half. So she opened the door, she saw Sukhdev ji and one Indian in British attire. She could recognize the man, and she was not letting that man in. So Rajguru says, he is Bhagat Singh. Oh, Bhagat, please come in. So Bhagat Singh ji entered, and then Rajguru said that Bhagat Singh ji has to go to Kolkata, but the police is everywhere swarming, so we'll, in disguise, we have to go via Lucknow. Because if we go directly to Kolkata, police will tap us. So we'll go to Lucknow, break journey there, and then go to Kolkata. So you have to accompany him as his wife. Are you ready? She was initially reluctant because Voraji was not there. But then she was lady of steel. She says, okay, if I do something, my husband will always protect me and support me. So she said, okay. So she disguised as Bhagat Singh's wife. He accompanied Bhagat Singh from Lahore to Kolkata via Lucknow. Rajguruji stepped down at Lucknow to meet Chandrasekhar Azad at Allahabad. They continued journey to Kolkata, and the entire bunch of money that Voraji gave, he gave it to HRS. That was a long journey. All the policemen were swarming the platforms, but they were cool. Their faces never betrayed any emotion. And she went on feeding the kid, and they went to a first class. Rajguru as their porter in second class. They reached Calcutta, and journey was safe for Bhagat Singh. After that, of course, Bhagat Singh was hanged. She got really turmoil. She was in turmoil. So she tried to kill the Governor General of Punjab in Mumbai. Along with 2 accomplices, she hired a taxi. But unfortunately, the Governor General already left. So to vent out the anger, she threw a bomb on a police officer. And somehow he also got unhurt, got away unhurt. And the police are hot on her trail. But for long, she was arrested for a brief time, but there was no cogent evidence against her. So she was released. So for years together, she was in hiding. After India got independence, Pandit Nehru ji held her getting a bungalow on lease to start the school. And she started the Montessori school with 50 kids, all from good families. And the Congress leaders helped her in establishing the school and getting the pupil by sending their own sons, own kids. And Durga ji continued the school for long. But then they were allotted a big land by Nehruji in 1963, 64 before he died. And that land was in prime place of Lucknow. So all the land mafia, tried to sweep on her. She got frustrated. She came back to Ghaziabad with his son. And there she died in 1999. I had lost track of her. as usual, got it muddled into my own career. And that time the revolution was not in my mind. It was not on my body or mind, it was not on fire. So I used to remember her, but as Durga Didi, we used to call Durga Didi. Durga Didi had not had the Agni. But 1999, there's a small piece of information in Hindustan Times. The Durga Devi Vera, the fairy revolutionary, died tonight at Ghaziabad. I felt very bad. This is the treatment she got after losing everything. So I kept cool. After some time, I read a piece that her school has been taken by mafia. So this is the kind of treatment the revolutionists got. And Durga Didi was a frail lady, very light speaking, and she was very mild, compassionate, but made of steel.
So, Subirji, let's make sure I understand. Bhagat Singh ji and Sukhdev ji and all the other revolutionary used to refer to her as Durga Bhabhi. And by the time you met her, she was Durga Didi running this school.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you one thing. Unfortunately, just after a few days of Calcutta departure, she lost her husband. He was making bombs on near the river. The bomb, exploded without warning, and Mr. Vora died there. And by the time police came to investigate, he was already buried there. He was buried. He couldn't have been given even a normal Hindu ritual.
See, when I read this story, I thought, all of us in our school, when we read history, we read about Bhagat Singh's escape with the lady and Rajguru. But no one asked in class when we were children, what happened to the lady? Who was the lady? And that sort of shows how even, all of us forget, don't pay attention to people in history who we don't see in the media. But anyway, let's talk about the next thing. You talk about the Agni Yuga of Bengal in the book. I have to admit, I had no idea about the Agni Yuga of Bengal before I read your book. So, and I doubt most other Indians know anything about it either. Can you tell us, our audience, about the Agni Yuga of Bengal?
Agni Yuga in Bengal, see, 1857, the mutiny was there, and 1858, really, the British started ruling India. Before that, it was the East Indian Company with help of British army. But 1858, the British started, ruling India. So after that, they, as they treated Bahadur Shah Zafar's sons very brutally, and they went on the mutiny, they crushed brutally. Everyone kept quiet. But simmering fire was there. Agni is fire, and it was simmering somewhere. And in Bengal, it was simmering fast, because the capital was Kolkata. So even in Dhaka and other areas, Chittagong, Medinipur, the fire was simmering. 1905 to 1935 is the Agni Yuga, because fire really caught up then. It went up till 1915. Then there was a phase where 1915 to 1928, there was a lull. Because of Gandhiji's carrot dangling policy, he told Subhash Chandra Bose and others like Deshbandhu Chittaranjan that ask your boys to cool down for some time. I am getting you freedom. By 1925, India would be free. He never said it will be a permanent republic. He said, I'm trying, I'll get you the best, but let them keep quiet. Now, Gandhiji was looking at the Bengal youth and Punjab youth. He knew that if he has to go along in non-violent, he needs a mob and dedicated people. And Bengal and Punjab had dedicated youth to go after. So he said, okay, you give undertaking, verbal undertaking that, okay, you won't indulge in any kind of, armed revolution. Because 1915 was 1915 was very, very turmoil age for Bengal. Many killings were there, many bombasts were there. They keep quiet, you all keep quiet, you join Congress. So revolutionists also thought if we join Congress, we'll get a cover. Britishers won't be after us. Because they will say, oh, the Congress are good guys. They don't do this, they don't do that. So they joined, and clandestinely they went on making their base. as a group, the gyms at akhadas, other places. They went on making their own groups, slow, covert groups. So till 15, after Bagha Jatin's death, there was a lull. After Bagha Jatin's death, I'll come to Bagha Jatin if I get time, if you want me to tell about him also. So after that, there was a lull. 1930s, when 1928, there was a Congress Adhiveshan at Calcutta, where Motilal Nehru was the president. In that, Subhash Chandra Bose got people, youth in army attire, and made a volunteer force with horse-drawn carriages over which Motilal was put. And there was an army drill sort of thing carried away in the Maidan, which Gandhi said is Subhash Circus. He played it down, and along with that, the British papers also saw it as a clowns circus and Subhash Chandra's own outfit circus. But it was this beginning of that army, Indian National Army, or Azad Hind Fauj inception was from 1928, these revolutionaries, when they found that Gandhiji is not going to do anything worthwhile, they started agitating. Now, most of them were in jails in Chittagong and Midnapur because they had looted some banks, they looted some to buy arms and ammunition. So they thought that, no, it is high time now. We'll now put fire to everything. Now we'll have a raised revolution. Raised revolution on the lines of the revolutions that world has seen, like in Ireland. So they made a covert plan to do that. And they did in 1930, April 1930, they did it in a big way, which has not been highlighted anywhere except for 2 or 3 films which ridicules them and doesn't utilize them. I'll come to that also.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. And our last interview in this series was with Prasyun Roy, who's written a book about Rash Bihari Bose. Again, another very prominent Bengali who I have to admit most Indians have never heard of. But you talked about Bagha Jatin. And once again, I'm embarrassed to admit that I did not know much about Bagha Jatin until I read these 2 books, your book and Prasyun's book on Rash Bihari Bose. I had never heard about Bagha Jatin. So please share with our audience, if you will, a summary of what you wrote about Bagha Jatin in your book.
Oh, thank you. I would love to do that because he hails from the same district as my family comes from, Kustia. But that's beyond the point. Gandhiji is the man who was, always against armed revolution and revolutionaries. But in this case, when he died, Gandhiji said that Jatin was a divine personality. And Bagha Jatin, when he died, Charles Trigger, the commissioner of police, said that had he been a Britisher, his statue would have been put next to Lord Nelson in Trafalgar Square. So these words, you can see that what Bagha Jatin was. Now I'll come to Bagha Jatin. Bagha Jatin name is Aka, also known as Jatindra Mohan Mukhopadhyay. He was born in Kustia, and he was very sturdy guy. He used to go to gym regularly. When he was a toddler rather, a dog pursued him. So he came running. What happened?
Nothing, go ahead.
So he came running to his mother, and he was crying. So his mother pulled out a stick, gave it to the toddler, and said, "You kick that dog out." And the toddler ran after the dog, and the dog went. So this was the mold he got into. Slowly, he molded himself into that brave category that he never used to fear. He was a very nice-looking, radiant boy. And during the cholera outbreak in Kolkata, he was helping Sister Nivedita, Vivekananda's alter ego. So Nivedita was impressed with his work and his demeanor. He said, "Why don't you meet Swami Vivekananda?" He said, "It's my dream. I'll definitely meet him." So Nivedita took him to Vivekananda. Vivekananda was also impressed with his dedication and his physique. He said, "I used to go to one gym, which is very famous for his bodybuilding exercises, and they make you real man, tough man. And your character also has to be tough, and that they teach. So you go to this particular gym. So he joined that gym. Slowly, he got into the mode when the revolution, he tilted towards revolution and joined Anushilan Samiti, a leading Samiti, and Jugantar later on, which was formed by Aurobindo Ghosh. He was in touch with Aurobindo Ghosh also. Rather, he was in touch with every revolutionary of India, including Rajbihari Bose, Chandrasekhar Azad, and the contemporaries. So Bagha Jatin was working with Pringle Kennedy. He was a big historian who was anti-British also. He used to write about the atrocities of this government against India. He worked with him for a few years, and there he imbibed the idea that no, freedom has to come, and if it has come, it has to come through armed revolution. 1905 at Siliguri station, he was taking water for an old woman and sitting on a bogie when he brushed English captain named Murphy, Army Captain Murphy. Murphy heard some obscenities. This guy got upset, but he didn't say anything, gave the water to the old lady, came back and has Murphy and 5 soldiers barehanded there only on the platform. So there was a case against him, but it became a joke of the town that one Indian barehanded beat up 5 or 6 policemen. So judge prudently called Captain Murphy and said, you withdraw this case, otherwise we will be a subject to ridicule. That case was withdrawn. There's so many stories about him like this. I have to write a full book on him if I get time. But the nickname that he got, Bagha Jatin, was in 1906, he lost his kid, his son, first son, of 6 years old. So he got dejected to life and he went to Haridwar. There he met Swami Bholagiri, who said, no, you are not for Grihasth. You are for a better, bigger world. You go and try to get freedom for your motherland. He came back. He was in his village when he heard the tiger is troubling the villagers. He went to his uncle. Uncle had a bore gun. They went and Bagha Jatin had one kukri. So they went there. The tiger jumped and the uncle fired. Unfortunately, the bullet missed it. And the tiger jumped on Bagha Jatin. So Jatin fought with the tiger with kukri for about 20 minutes or 25 minutes. And ultimately, he succeeded in killing the tiger. It's not barehanded, as people say. It was with a kukri. He was not Samson that he will strangle, but he had the means and the guts. But in that, he got about 86 long cuts throughout the body. He was dying when people pulled him out, took him to civil hospital, and later he was shifted to Kolkata. But the doctor who treated was astounded at his bravery and gave the nickname of Bagha Jatin. And the government, Bengal government gave him a plaque saying that he was slaying the tiger. The nickname came as Bagha Jatin. Now this Bagha Jatin got in touch with German authorities through his emissaries and arranged for 4 ships to come to Balasore coast, Odisha coast, where the arms were to be offloaded, and they wanted to encircle Kolkata with the arms and ammunition that they get from the ships. Unfortunately, the first ship, Maverick, was intercepted and the arms and ammunition were confiscated. The 3 ships that were inching towards the coast of Balasore, Odisha coast, they were given away by a Czech national, a Czech spy, double timed them and told the British authorities that these are the 3 ships that is reaching Balasore coast very soon. And the police intercepted, and Taggart was the sniffer. He ran after Bagha Jatin like he used to do for everyone. And ultimately he got to the shop, that front shop, Vishnu and Company, that Bagha Jatin used to run in Kolkata. Bagha Jatin was in Odisha waiting for the arms, never knowing that the ships have been held back. Then he got the news that police is after you and they'll be reaching you shortly within few hours. So he ran with 4 of his accomplices towards the village. And after 1.5 days of running around, they just sat for lunch when a villager came running and said, police is coming from all directions. I don't know why. They are telling that some dacoits have come. So they left the lunch and left in hurry. And the police came after them. They ran and the villagers ran. Yes.
So Virji, let's stop for the summary of Bhagat Jatin here, because rest people can read in the book. We
No,
don't
I'm just
want to.
telling one single line. They took refuge in a trench which was in a higher area, and 5 brave hearts fought about 500 policemen, army with equipped with arms for 3 long hours. And then one guy died, and other 4 were seriously hurt, including Bhagat Jatin. They were taken to Balasore hospital. He refused water to drink, and he died a glorious death. So that is Bhagat Jatin.
And like you said, I hope someday someone writes a book about him.
Yeah,
That
I'll wait for
him.
that. Sir, I'll wait for that. I have implored frontline authors to do some research and write about them, leaving aside how to reduce your pot belly and my lover has run off. That kind of books. That they can write, but let them write about these people also. They deserve that.
Right. So you mentioned this other guy, Taggart, and in the book you talk about Taggart the Terrible. So who can you tell our audience who was this Charles Taggart the Terrible?
Charles Taggart is an Irishman who worked in Irish police for a little time. Then he joined Calcutta police as detective in 1901. He had a hound-like quality. He could sniff anything. And as a detective, he made a very, very elaborate network of his spies and informers, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, everywhere. Because he was a smooth-talking man, but he was inhuman also. He was after revolutionaries and never spared anyone. And only 2 aberrations were there. One was Surya Sen Mastarda, whom he could not catch till he was given out by his own. And the other was Binay Bose, the veranda battle guy. He also eluded him for long, but others he sniffed and caught at the appropriate moments, and he was inhuman. And there were 6 attempts were made on his life during his 30-year career. Every time he got himself a nick of the time, he eluded this death. And then he used to keep a fused bomb on his table just to encourage people that, well, this is a diffused bomb. I can defuse anyone. And he used to go around in an open car with a dog, hound dog, along with him. So he was a real.
The veranda battle is covered on page 78.
Veranda battle is very important for Indians to know how 3 people got into in European dresses into a deeply guarded, highly guarded police main headquarters of Bengal and killed the respected general and others, and then committed suicide. Binay Badal Dinesh.
Right, and you talk about that in the book. But let me ask you something else here. One of the things I learned from the book, and like I said, there were many things here that I did not know about. But one of the things that I especially sort of wished you had talked more about, it seems that many Indian revolutionaries were very impressed by and learned from the Irish Republican Army and what was happening in Ireland at the time. But that's not something you elaborate in the book. Do you have any more information about that? Can you share some information?
Yes, actually, these revolutionaries are not roadside desperados. They were well read. They used to read books during their jail times, and they read Garibaldi from Italy, Mazzini from Italy, then Valera from Ireland, and other contemporary leaders and the war guerrilla methods, tactics they used to read, apart from main book Gita. So they imbibed everything from those books. Now, Valera was an Irishman who was born in US. He was a US citizen. And he led a revolt as a commander of the Irish Volunteers Force during Easter, Good Friday. And he held back in one mill. He took over a mill and fought British Army 1-1 with his accomplices. He was caught along with his associates. A lot of executions were there. But Valera was not executed because of 2 or 3 reasons. One, he was the last one to be captured, and by that time, public sympathy went in favor of them. Number 2, British was trying to drag in US into the war. So they thought that it's not proper to upset them because they're US citizen. There was a lot of pressure. So he was given imprisonment, not execution. His ideas, his writings influenced these people in a big way. And that reflected in a great raid, which we would not even know. 90% to 95% of Indians do not know that there was a raid on Chittagong Armory by 65 brave hearts who confronted 600 armed people, armed men of British Army, and liberated Chittagong for 3 long days. The flag fluttered for 3 long days. Not a single British could enter Chittagong, though the revolution is already done off to Jalalabad Hills and fought a pitched battle there for 2 days and lost 12 from their group, and around 70 people were killed from British side. This is not highlighted, but this is a much bigger story than Kakori, than other legendary stories we read. Of course, they are leaders, but the flame must be, it should be balanced. Things should be balanced. But these, as you said, Irish Republic was one of the guidelines that this party, Chittagong Army, they also called them the Chittagong Revolutionary Army, on the lines of, and they did the same thing, same attack, same style of surprise attack in army dresses, and that's it.
So Subirji, one of the questions.
Yes.
One of the questions I, of course, wanted to ask, but Santoshji asked in the chat box, so I'll ask that before, is how long did it take you to do all the research for this book? From thinking about writing this book to actually getting all the research done, writing the book, how long was this process? Sir, I may sound a little, little narcissist sort of thing, but when I was around 8 or 9 years old, my father, as I told you, Bagha Jatin was from our district, so he had a fascination for Bagha Jatin. So he used to read all books about revolution. And there's a very good 3-volume book by Dr. Niharanjan Gupta, Bidrohi Bharat. It was a fiction story, but along that, it was these stories are woven into. So I read in Bengali I read, and somehow I got really fascinated as well. These guys lost everything, and now I'm enjoying the fruits of it. I was very young. I could not sustain it for long because, you see, there's like infatuation. It was not love. I got into that infatuation and I forgot. Then when I read about Durga Devi about a decade back, I wrote a small eulogy in a local newspaper, which is, I used to write blog, and I wrote that why this 26th January flag was taken, but we forget the real heroes. So that was appreciated by a lot many people. And I later shared with my publisher, who said that, Subirji, why don't you write about Bagha Jatin and others? I said, I don't have much of material, so it won't be a full book. And then I'll be depriving other heroes also. So let me get, at least people get acclimatized to the names. Let them know. So I started writing about, 5 years back, I started collating the information from the books of that era, not the present one. Because a lot of Jafran and Kesar and Kismis has been put on the main. Biryani has now cooked with their Jafran and Kesar. And if you read 3 contemporary books on history, or on them, you'll find the 3 versions are there, 3 types of stories. Because as I told you, it's his story, not history. His story. But in this particular book type, genre of book, you can't have FOF. That is flight of fancy. You got to stick to the truth. And truth can never be obfuscated. It cannot be layered. It has to come out. And so I did that research from the old books of Silas Day, then one Subodh Roy, who was the youngest, one of the youngest participants in Chittagong Army raid, with a rifle bigger than him. He fought the British. And he stole it from his father's cabinet. He later became a CPI MP, and he wrote a book, Chittagong Army Raid, from his accounts. Then Kalpana Dutt, right hand of your master, she also wrote a book. Her son was the leading journalist Chand Joshi, and Malini Joshi, daughter, they also wrote a book. Such books led authenticity. I read about them, I collated them, then I took the common things that, well, this is maybe truth, everyone is writing the same thing. So this, like the Czech spy I told you, it was a Czech spy, it was not a British spy. I recently heard one historian saying that British
spy went and told them it was not a British spy, it was a Czech spy, and it is authenticated. Then some people say Raspberry Bose made the bomb. I'm sorry to say he didn't make. Mr. Nayak, one Nayak made it. And he then got the bomb transferred to Banaras. But I don't want to delve into that. Everyone will say, you are wrong, I'm right. I don't want to do that. Every historian has got his own perspective, one view. So as the question comes, that I took about 5 years to jot it down. Last year, I was in Czech Republic, my daughter, for 3 months. I had a lot of time. I collated that. And I am not savvy with computers and laptops, so I wrote everything on mobile, sent it to my publisher, and she was gracious enough to accept it. And she has not edited much because I said, my writing is different. I write my way. The reader should not get bumps. I don't want to write Tharuvian English that I have to run to see the dictionary and relate to it. So my language is clear, steady.
So let me ask you, in this book
Yes.
that you wrote, what is your most favorite episode?
Sir,
Which is your most favorite story?
Chittagong Armory Raid.
Chittagong.
Because this is not an individual, this is a group. This is a group in action, disciplined group. At such a young age, such a disciplined gang being led by a small diminutive man of 5 feet height and hardly 50 kg of weight, but eyes sparkling with, that passion for freedom. Master Da, Surya Sen. So that's a fascinating story, and one must read that. If not my book, then any book. But you must read about Chittagong Armory Raid. Don't go by the films.
Chittagong Armory Raid is on page 47 of your book, so I encourage others to read it too. Now, next question.
Yes, sir.
As you did this research, I'm sure there were other stories that you found, but that did not get included in the book because either you didn't have much material or you couldn't verify the authenticity or whatever. Can you tell us, our audience, one story that you found but didn't include in the book?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are bound, authors are bound by the directives also that the book should be this lean. You know better than the, of course, that spine should be this thick. But there's no such binding on me. But I thought, let me have the litmus test. How people react to this book. Because this is a book which normally no one would try to touch in the shelves. Are freedom kya? Why should we be bothered about what they did? They died and they are in obscurity. Why dig them? Why assume their career? So I thought, let me have litmus. But fortunately, when some days ago, I gave a lecture to 2 groups of students, 300 each, in a very prestigious school. I saw the response from the younger generation that they didn't know a single name. Even the teachers didn't know who was Bala Jatin. But the response that I got after the speech and during the speech, during the deliberation, I was motivated really that, yes, this type of book should be written. And again, I say in my preface, I have requested all the leading authors, frontline authors, not maverick authors like me, to come out, put some time in, take out one, like Preston has done it very nicely for Raspberry Bose. He has gone into Raspberry Bose and done it. So let them pick each individual as an entity, like Bhagajatni, Master Surya Sen, Binay Badlal Dinesh, and then bring out books so that people can read it. So I feel that I have left out the role of Subhash Chandra Bose and his elder brother Satish Chandra Bose in this freedom struggle, because they only instilled the idea of Bengal volunteers, the army to be raised, and they held the revolution to no end. To no end. People must not be knowing that Subhash Chandra had a rival in Bengal politics. Deshapriya, Jatindra Mohan Sen Gupta. There are 2 groups, Sen Gupta group and Bose group. And the revolutionaries were on Subhash Chandra Bose's side, and Pakka Congresses were on Sen Gupta's side. So there was a clash in Medinapur with the 2 groups, and one was killed. Subhash Chandra group's man was killed. Now Subhash had to rush there, and before police could act or their revolutionaries could react, Subhash doused the fire. And there was a truce later on, of course, by Jaswant Chittaranjan Das. These aspects should have been brought out, but You see, as I told you, it's a litmus test. I've
And
tried.
in the book you do say, and I quote you, I exhort other authors to take some time to delve into the lives of more such patriots from other states and give them their rightful place in the history of India's freedom struggle by writing about their sacrifices.
Sir, yes.
So I hope more and more people will heed your call and do. But let me move to the next question. Our film industry, as you know, India has the largest film industry in the world. Uh, we make movies like RRR, which just won an Oscar. There was Lagan some time back, again, which went to the Oscars. Not that that should matter, but saying that there was a lot of, interest in this topic. Of course, there are also movies about Gandhi, the famous, Oscar-winning movie. There's also a movie
Yes.
about Patel. There's a movie
Yes.
about Bose. Do you think our film industry has done a sufficient job of educating our people about the Indian freedom struggle?
Sir, with all due respect to the intent of the filmmakers, I personally feel that they have made a sham of it. I have never read a single revisionist dancing to Natu Natu or getting into a close love, leaving aside freedom. Because the revolutionist first thing was you won't get into a relation. Okay, sir. But there are 2 or 3 films which really are good, like Manoj Kumar Saeed. To a certain extent, the depictions are good. And then Lagan was quite good, not bad. But think of the scenario where Surya Sen, of a height of 5 feet, sunken cheeks, uneven tooth, 50 kilo weight, balding height, is represented by Abhishek Bachchan in a film. Or Manoj Vajpayee as Surya Sen. I can't imagine, sir. I can't imagine. It hurts me. And even Surya Sen under the ocean must be, just breathing back. What is this? How am I depicted in this film? Sir, the thing is that when you make a film, or I'm a theater personality, you have to see whether the character that you're portraying matches the personality that you're taking. In that respect, I'll give full marks to Attenborough. Though it's not that just because of British filmmaker I am declaring, but you see the characters that he has, or same Shyam Benegal, the characters that they take, at least they try to match. Not Abhishek Bachchan dancing around and romancing like Surya Sen, unfed for days, and he met an end, brutal end, being beaten up, tongs bitten by teeth taken up by pliers, bones broken by hammers. And then by the time he and Tarak Krishna, the Siddhar lieutenant, was taken to the gallows, they were dead. And they were tied with rocks and thrown into Indian Ocean. So how would they feel if they see this movie from upstairs? Give them some due. These films are for something else. They show Mahatma Gandhi to earn Mahatma Gandhi. The green notes of Mahatma Gandhi, to earn that, they make such films. I have not seen, sir, any real filmmaker going for real characterization of these unheard people.
But Subirji, this is about the film industry, right? What about our families and our schools? Do you think they do a good job of educating their own young generation, the next generation, about these heroes? I mean, I have worked with a lot of Bengalis over the years. I've worked with a lot of Punjabis over the years. I have not heard even one Bengali sort of talk to me about the freedom struggle. They all talk about the Bhadralok and Rabindranath Tagore and Satyajit Ray. But do you think, what do you think about the role of the families and our schools?
Sir, all the families, including Bengali families, are now career oriented. If these names are included in the syllabus or by Jews, you see every family, every male and female member of the family will be reading these books and teaching their kids so that they get number and get into IITs and medical. After that, they may forget about freedom. But as only 2 or 3 names are there, they know it. Have you heard of this gentleman? Yes, sir, they did it. Have you heard of Baga Jatin? Who Jatin? Because that is not in curriculum. We can't help. 135 crore plus population, my book will sell 1,000, 2,000 books. Other contemporary writers will sell 5,000 each, maybe. And at 5,000, you call ourselves bestsellers. Okay. Now these bestsellers will reach hardly few families. For a broader reach, the government should bring in these characters, these martyrs, into the textbook. It's not replacing, it's augmenting. If it's 120 pages history book, why can't you make it 180 pages, sir? Why don't you give brief so that they can refer? Why don't you ask who was the youngest? No one knows who was the youngest martyr, sir. You ask any of the listeners, I'm sorry, they won't be able to tell you who was the youngest martyr of India, sir. It was Baji Raut, 12 years old Odia boy, who was the youngest martyr of India, not Khudiram Bose. He was only 12 when he was shot dead for refusing the British police to cross the river at dead of the night. When my society or my neighborhood, when we raise the flag, I ask these questions repeatedly. I try to do my best. If everyone does that bit, or the government as a large does a bit, these names will be there for the next 10 years. They will be resounding everywhere. No one will ask who is Bhaga Jatin. They will revere Bhaga Jatin. Or
and in the book, you also talk about the one of the oldest martyrs, right? Gandhi, Buri Gandhi.
Matangani Hajra. Matangani Hajra is the oldest, and she led from front. Though she was a Gandhian, but ultimately she sacrificed herself to hold the flag afloat. I have ended my book with her, her because she can't be forgotten. There's one more lady, Kanaklata Barua from Assam, which I have left, and I'll include her sometime, who also sacrificed holding the flag. But Matangini was the eldest, so I have brought him.
Yeah, and that was very inspiring to read, and I'm glad you mentioned it.
Thank you, sir.
But let me ask you this, and you hinted at this earlier. What was the reception to the book when it first came out? Was it what you expected?
Sir, expectations as the author runs high at a different levels. I was never expecting that this book will be as popular as How to Reduce Your Belly, as I told you, or How My Love Ran Away. I knew that people will see, they will skip up the, my friends will buy, my colleagues will buy, my circle will buy, my readers, my Pakka readers will buy, but then it will reach a stagnation point where it stops. Then you have to push and pull. You have to do marketing. For marketing books in India, you need money. And I don't go by money because some books I don't take royalty also. So I don't write for money because I know I won't get the money that others get. So why pretend? But I'm not for that. I want my ideas to percolate. Okay, sir. So I knew that this book is not going to make a sensation, but by word of mouth is going. Still, my books are selling. Last 4 months, my books have sustained, and people are asking me to send them. And like you said that you have also liked it, and you will may motivate others also. If not buy it, to at least wait for the. And book selling, sir, book selling is a slow process. It hits a low, and then again it spurts up, then again it hits low. It's a sine curve. But when my publisher last month told me, Subir Babu, you write a sequel to this book, I knew that the book is doing well. Otherwise, she would never ask me to write a sequel. Rather, she would have given me a cup of coffee and said, okay, meet you again. But I'm happy, sir. I'm happy that whoever has read it has loved it. Not me, but the characters. And if they love the character, they love the author.
So Subirji, in the interest of time, given we try to limit this conversation to 1 hour, I will move to the 3 last questions of today.
Sir,
so the first question is, among sort of the last questions, as a writer, who inspires you? Which writers do you look up to? I'm sure it is not writers like Chetan Bhagat who are writing about how to find your love who's run away. So which are the writers who inspire you?
Sir, I am an avid reader since my childhood. Initially, I loved all the classics. I started with Dell Comics sort of thing because I'm a school, as I told you, Hindi medium school. So English was quite tough. I was thrown out of the English medium school when I went for interview. But I read from the English books and I loved those classics. David Copperfield. So I abridged David Copperfield for Indian readers from 700 pages to 220 pages. All chapters intact, the intent intact, and is done well for Vitasta. Thank you, Vitasta. So and the first book, if you see, my first book, I have dedicated to 3 icons, 2 dead and 1 living. There, sir, this is my first book, Beyond My Blinkers. These are 60 short stories, anecdotes from life, humorous, and which peps up everyone. 2 my Dronacharyas, R.K. Narayan, Sardar Khushwant Singh, and Ruskin Bond, whose lucid and prolific writings have always captivated me. Eklavya, because I have never met them. So I am their Eklavya. Not that I have read all the books written by them. I have read few of Ruskin Bond, a few of R.K. Narayan, and all of Khushwant Singh, because I found that they write for the readers, not for showing their writing prowess. As I have done in my books, so I thought that my writing style is akin to their writing style. So they are my gurus. They are my tacit gurus. And I still admire them. But then the next line comes, Amir Tripathi is a good writer. I have read 2 or 3 books of him. He is Indian Dan Brown. He's a good writer. Then I loved Upamanyu Chatterjee's English August. The writing was very good and the storyline was good. And then I loved your Shashti Brata's My God Died Young. And of course, Neeraj Chaudhary, the evergreen, the quintessential Indian, Neeraj Chaudhary. Of late, I have been reading my contemporaries like historians of Chandachud Ghosh, Anuj Dhar. They are doing real great job in unearthing the Netaji mystery. And the writing style is unique and the research is incisive. And I like Prasun Roy's book. He's a good friend of mine. And I'm reading one of my IIT colleagues, Alok Lal, who was the Director General of Police Uttarakhand. He has written 2 crime books, real crime books, based on his experiences. And of course, Saurabh Mukherjee and Maitri Bhaduri, they are 2 authors I like. And there's host of authors now. See, there's a sea of publishing houses are doing a good business. After this digital revolution has come in, editing everything, pagination is very, very easy. So authors are coming. So I can't say who inspired me, but people who perspired to write have inspired me. Those who have conspired have not inspired me. See,
let me move to the next question because we are limited with time.
I'm little talkative. I'm sorry, I'm little talkative because I have crossed the that age where a man keeps mum and listens to others. Now I'm at the age when I preach and others listen.
Subirji,
so I'm sorry, sir.
When you are a storyteller, right? That's what makes these stories interesting. But let me ask you this. 1 or 2 books that you are reading these days, that you are currently reading?
I'm not into heavy readings. I don't read volume of books. As I told you, I'm reading Chandachud Ghosh. And then I've got hold of a very good book. This is The Last Heroes, Foot Soldiers of Indian Freedom by Sainath, P. Sainath. P. Sainath, as you know, is a great journalist, good author. But only thing that he has mostly dealt with tribal revolutionaries. And the writing style is good. And he's a good author, of course, P. Sainath. I am going slow, but I'm taking it sip by sip. I'm taking it.
Is this a book you would recommend everyone to read?
Yes, sir. Yes, of course. Of course. This augments my efforts. I'm happy to get a hold of, because this was recommended to me by the nephew of Sardar Bhagat Singh, Major General Shunant Singh, who has written my foreword. He is fortunately my classmate from Roorkee University. And he has written the preface, if you see my foreword. So he has
in the book, the foreword is by Major General Shunant Singh.
Yes, sir. He wrote to me and he told me, it's a better book. You read this. He had the temerity to tell me, it's a better book. You read it.
So my last question to you.
Sir.
What is the next book you're working on?
There are 2 things. One manuscript is ready of humor, because I am from humor genre. But I feel authors should not restrict themselves to one genre. Like a good actor, you should not be a comedian and villainous. So I switched over to David Copperfield, as I told you. Then I wrote this Forest Fire. This is basically a book of my hostel life, where Naxals invaded our college, and there was a murder, 2 murders, and police force coming into. Then I went to Roorkee. That episodes are there. This book is also doing well. And then I have the manuscript of about 60 odd stories, humorous ones, like my first book. Like my first book is Beyond My Blinkers. The man should not have blinkers. They should open and see the world. Like that, my next book is coming. I made it ready, but I'm not sure. I'm waiting this book to be settled down. I don't want to hurry. Though ages are not on my side, but still, I know Lord would be that unkind to me. And second one is a sequel to this book, sequel to Freedom Fighter, that I'm eagerly looking to, and I'm doing some research in. I don't want to confine myself to one genre. These 2 books will hopefully be released this year. And
So wonderful, Subirji. My best wishes to you on your next book.
I
And
need,
hope this
I
current
need
book,
I need your blessings. I need your love and all the readers and the friends who are watching me. Any questions from them, I'm ready to answer, willing to answer if you have time.
We
I
are
have time.
past time now, so I think now we will stop. But thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. I wish we had more time for more questions from the audience, but I enjoyed learning about your book, about you. And again, thank you very much and best wishes for your next book.
Okay, so thank you. God bless you. Maybe next time again with my new book. Bye. Cheer you. Bye. Good day, sir. Good day, everyone.